what the left does, in this case the New York Times, and two professors, as I said earlier, the combination of the New York Times op-ed piece and two professors is almost guaranteed to be to offer you the opposite of wisdom. It is the largest piece on the. It's given the largest amount of space on the opinion page of the New York Times today. It's titled "Fighting Over God's Image" by Edward Blum, a professor at San Diego State University, and Paul Harvey, a professor of history at the University of Colorado Springs. It is impossible to overstate how irrelevant this article is to the subject. Impossible. It is a series of paragraphs unrelated to one another and unrelated to the subject. The entire purpose is, and again, I document this over and over in my book, Still the Best Hope. The entire purpose is to say, don't think that what's happening with Muslims is any different than what has happened here. That's the purpose. So they riot over cartoons, or they riot over images, or they riot over videos. Well, hey, you should read about our past and how much controversy and tension there has been over depictions of Jesus and depictions of the cross. As if there is any comparison. There isn't one example of one death in the article. Here is an example. When Hollywood first started portraying Jesus in films, one fundamentalist Christian fumed. The picturing of the life and sufferings of our Savior by these institutions falls nothing short of blasphemy. All right, this is in the early 20th century, but first of all, so what? So what? One Christian fundamentalist fumed. Who was the guy? Who was he? They don't even say who he was. And who cares what people fume? Did anybody get hurt? Did anybody get hurt? Foolish professors? Deceptive professors? Demagogic professors? This is the crap your children study at school. This is the crap. It's so angering. Hey, we have it just as bad in America. My God, there was a Christian who fumed about Jesus in movies. So what? Who are you to talk about Muslims slaughtering people over cartoons? This is it. Do you understand? You pay good money to send your kids to learn this garbage. And then we have arguments over who will subsidize more of the money to be spent in these universities to learn this garbage. This is a foolish, deceptive, phony, irrelevant, intellectually vapid article, and it's the featured piece in today's New York Times op-ed page. Here was a paragraph I didn't even understand. It was not only Protestants who opposed sacred imagery. In the Southwest, Pueblo Indians who waged war against Spanish colonizers not only burned and dismembered some crucifixes, but even defecated on them. What's the point? When did this happen? When Pueblo Indians war is in the 18th century? In the 1700s? 1600s? Pueblo Indians warred against Spanish colonizers? What does that have to do with anything? What are what are they, Protestant Pueblos? What is the point? There is no point. There is no point. The article begins, the murders of 4 Americans over an amateurish online video about Muhammad. They're still, by the way, they're still claiming that that's the reason for the killings. But even if it were true, right, has left many Americans confused, angry, and fearful about the rage that some Muslims feel about visual representations of their sacred figures. I'm not confused. Yes, I am angry, and I am fearful. Why would I not be? Why am I confused? Why are Americans confused? They never explain that. Why are American, dear professors at New York Times, how exactly are Americans confused about people who murder because of pictures? What is the confusion, please? I just want you to understand that this is what your kids learn in history, political science, English, sociology, and most of the other so-called liberal arts. This is what they learn. You must, I don't know what to say. I don't know how to convince you. The purpose of the university is to produce a secular leftist and one who has essential contempt for American history. This is the purpose. Some professors do not go along. I agree with that. They are a tiny minority. This stupid piece by Edward Blum and Paul Harvey is an example. And if you are going into hoc as a parent or a student, you are wasting your money. You are. And the New York Times should be embarrassed, but it never is, about publishing this piece. Even if I were an honest liberal, I would be embarrassed by this.